Hi, I'm Sean Morgan, and I'm just going to share my story about depression and anxiety and panic disorder and all that fun stuff that people go through when they're growing. I feel like depression and anxiety are conditions of adolescence in the grand scheme of things. Adolescence, as in that time when you're going from childhood to adult, from dependent to independent, and from being just thrown into the world and figuring out all the things it takes to survive and thrive. And so for me personally, I was a pretty happy kid and I grew up in a really supportive, happy home. And when I was around 12, I noticed I was a little bit different from everyone else. I was a little bit more introverted, a little bit more dreamy, a little bit more, at the time, I felt more intelligent than my peers, that I knew something they didn't know, that I was asking questions they wouldn't ask. And so this really separated me. This really created a divide between me and my peers. I became less social and went inward, taking emotions inward, and I created my own little world that was away from the reality of school and socialization. And in my little world, beautiful things were created. I was a musician and poet and created works of art. And I had friends, I had other people that were outsiders, and we related to each other that way. But I just kept searching. I just had this dissatisfaction. And I wanted to know more, and I felt like I needed to expand my consciousness more. And so I thought drugs would be a really good way to do that, because I was trying the path of learning, and it wasn't happening as fast as I wanted it to happen. I wanted life's answers, and I wanted them now. And so, yeah, I used marijuana and had a complete freak out experience and developed panic disorder. And so I would have this panic just strike me out of nowhere, just seemingly out of nowhere, and like everything, my whole visual field would go fuzzy, and I would feel like life as I knew it was absolutely fading, that I was going to die. And it was just a really strong thing. It overtook my body. I would go into fight or flight, and it was undeniable. I mean, I would wake up in the middle of the night doing this, and I was hospitalized and I was medicated, and the medications made things worse, and I got angry from the medications, gave me these rage attacks, and then the medication I was on, Paxil, ended up being outlawed and made illegal for minors because it caused suicide. And I took myself off of that medication, and I moved out of my parents' house, and I started my own life and started following my own dreams, and the anxiety just started going away. And I really think that that's a clue to one of the things that really helps with anxiety is independence and doing these things that empower yourself, and doing the things that maybe you're living a lifestyle where you're ignoring your heart's voice, your inner voice of what you really desire and what you really want to do. Like maybe you're in relationships of obligation or jobs of obligation, and you just keep suppressing and suppressing. It comes out as anxiety. And so I overcame the anxiety for a few years. But, the depression and different related mental illness just kept reappearing in my life and would really show up in relationships. In relationships where I was with like really amazing, beautiful people that would have these character flaws that I would see. Relationships are like the greatest spiritual path because they act as, like, if you're in a good relationship, they act as a reflection of you and your own flaws. And so, there are such things as completely abusive relationships, which probably is a reflection that you're completely abusive to yourself. So I was in this relationship for 4 years with an amazing, beautiful person that had these certain things that I really wanted them to change. In fact, I needed them to change. I wouldn't be in a relationship with them if they didn't agree to completely change on these things. And the attitude of me wanting them to change created the absolute thing that made them what I didn't like. Me not being satisfied with them made them negative toward me. Of course, I was creating the whole situation. So I was engaged to this person, and through my own blaming of this other person for all of their character traits or personality traits, the relationship ended, the engagement ended, and I just kept on blaming the person. I mean, I was just like, okay, the relationship's over, good riddance, because it was all their fault anyway. And I was alone, and I was forced to decide, how I was going to deal with the situation. Having been through cycles of depression before, what was I going to do? And so I made a lot of lifestyle changes to really help myself get healthy physically and mentally, and just exercising and nutrition and just focusing on the positive. And through a lot of changes that I go through in my book, I was able to get to a point of really taking responsibility. And when I started to do that, I started to be really humbled by realizing all the things that I had always done throughout my entire life with any relationship that didn't work out. Through blaming other people, I wasn't taking responsibility for myself. I wasn't taking responsibility that I even created that thing in them that I didn't like. I created it through my own thoughts, through my own attitude, through my own actions and my own vibe that I was putting out. So that was a real revelation to me, that all the problems in that relationship, that beautiful, wonderful relationship that I loved that person so much I wanted to be married to them for life, that I ruined it. It was my fault the whole time. That was the biggest wake-up call to me. When I realized that would be one point that I could say, yeah, that's a point that once I pass that, I call that the point of conscious evolution, the point of responsibility, when you realize that you create your life, that you're not a victim of circumstance by any means, that no matter what the circumstance, if you are a person that focuses on positive, you create positive circumstances. And you probably don't believe me. If you're a person that's working with depression right now, I'd say depression is a feeling or a view that you have this sadness or this disempowerment, and you can't see the other side of it. I mean, that's how I define depression. If you have depression, you can't believe me. Depression doesn't allow you to. But I hope you realize, even though you may be in darkness and you can't see light at the end of the tunnel, I hope you realize and you trust that I've been there before. That I've been to a place of darkness, of suicide, of suicidal ideation, of wanting to just escape the pain of life. And if I've been there, and I'm at where I'm at now, a place of strength and fortitude, knowing that no matter what circumstance comes up, my body and my mind have an inherent intelligence to overcome any obstacle. That everything's temporary, and I'm willing to work with that. That I'm willing to change, to adapt. So if you trust me that I've been there and that I'm on the other side of it, or you're willing to at least consider that, then I'd really love to share my story more and all the practices that have helped me get to this point. I wrote a book called The Mastery of Change. It's an abridged version right now that I have released, is 25 pages long. It's a really quick read. And it also comes with a sample of a 30-day workbook, which is a challenge. I call it the Darkness to Daylight Challenge, where all of your days are structured. I found that for me personally, and there are some personality types that really thrive with structure. And so I create like a checklist of like dozens of things to do each day to take those small steps toward well-being. So read this book. If you're interested at this point, read through the book, and it may inspire you to try a one-day challenge. And if you do the one-day challenge and you experience the benefits, you may want to end up doing the whole 30-day challenge. So you can find out more at masterychange.com, And I was really glad to be able to share my story because I hope it can help you and a whole bunch of other people. Thanks.